Lloyd was a weak teenager, so weak that he couldn't even catch an ordinary rabbit. That rabbit even beat him up, making him feel utterly humiliated. Right at that moment, a neighbor appeared, holding the very same rabbit in his hand, which made Lloyd delighted. On the way back, he constantly asked the neighbor about the outside world, but the neighbor only advised that if he wanted to know, he should become strong and find the answers himself. Afterward, he gave Lloyd a book, which made the boy extremely excited. Time passed, Lloyd gradually grew up and decided to set out to find a witch. When he arrived, Marie immediately warned that those who weren't prepared to pay a worthy price should leave at once. Seeing Lloyd's determination, Marie stood up and asked for his reason. Lloyd confessed that he wanted to become a soldier, so he had come to the city and hoped for her help. Marie was about to tell the history of witches, but Lloyd showed that he already knew everything, which made her feel embarrassed and then angry, scolding him and telling him to go elsewhere. However, when she heard Lloyd say he was from Kunran village and the village chief's name was Alka, Marie suddenly felt a chill down her spine. When Lloyd produced a crystal ball, she was even more horrified because she knew she would have to face the master she greatly feared. Immediately after, Alka appeared from the ball, making Marie instantly submissive, losing her arrogance. She handed Lloyd over to Marie's care because he was her favorite student. Alka even pretended that this was just a pre-recorded image to make Marie reveal her true nature, thus giving her a reason to punish her mercilessly. When Marie realized she had been tricked, her only option was to quickly apologize. When Alka's figure disappeared, she vented her anger on the crystal ball. Seeing this, Lloyd bowed his head and apologized, but to his surprise, she didn't blame him and even offered him a private room. Before entering, Lloyd didn't forget to express his gratitude and hope for her help, making Marie realize he was a good person. Unexpectedly, Alka appeared again, reminding Marie not to bully Lloyd, or she would face the consequences. She also revealed that she had just used instant teleportation through the crystal ball, making Marie extremely uncomfortable. However, Alka didn't care about those feelings and only instructed her to train Lloyd seriously. Still upset about being called an old woman, Alka punished her by casting a spell of misfortune. From then on, Marie encountered a series of bad luck, crying out in misery. The next morning, Marie woke up and saw Lloyd quietly cooking. He quickly apologized for using the kitchen without permission, but Marie told him to make himself at home. Afterward, Lloyd brought her a portion of pancakes with rich sauce, which she praised as soon as she tasted it, making him very happy. When asked about his dream, Lloyd confessed that he was originally the weakest person in the village, unable to even collect firewood or catch fish. From a young age, he had admired a hero from a novel, so he always aspired to become a soldier. To be admitted to the officer school, one had to pass 3 rounds: martial arts, magic, and an interview. Marie emphasized that the martial arts portion was the most important, making Lloyd feel even more ashamed. He was worried because of his weak physique, as it had taken him 6 days just to get here. Marie explained that even by train, it would take 6 days from Kunran village to here, and was surprised to learn that Lloyd had run the entire distance. According to her, that was very fast, but Lloyd still thought his grandfather only took 2 days. Marie was surprised and asked if he had encountered any monsters, to which Lloyd replied that he hadn't met any dangerous creatures, only giant grasshoppers and fire-breathing lizards. Marie immediately said those were monsters, but Lloyd still considered them ordinary animals, thinking that only beings like demon lords could be considered monsters. This perspective left Marie at a loss, feeling that he was too unusual. During their conversation, Lloyd took out a handkerchief engraved with an ancient worm, saying it could wipe away any stain. Marie was stunned, as that type of worm had taken her 3 years to learn about. Lloyd also mentioned that he knew how to use magic to summon rain, but Marie said that spell was not feasible. Finally, she decided that tomorrow she would teach him basic magic, making Lloyd very excited. The next day, Lloyd went for a walk and heard rumors that many candidates were gathering to take the officer school exam. The townspeople also mentioned that foreign agents were luring monsters into the city. Upon hearing the word monsters, he suddenly remembered his mission and ran off. Meanwhile, a princess accidentally bumped into a man who recognized her identity and scolded her for disgracing the nobility. But the princess didn't care, entered an alley, and unfortunately encountered a monster. Thrown against the wall, she was nearly killed when Lloyd appeared, quickly defeated the opponent, and tossed it away. He approached to check on her, but the princess avoided him due to her self-consciousness about her appearance. Lloyd said he had something to do and had to part ways here. The girl quickly introduced herself as Selin and then watched him leave intently. When she returned home, Lloyd's image was still in her mind. Selin planned to put on nice makeup next time. But when she looked at the belt on her face, she remembered her unfortunate childhood. From a young age, she had been ostracized and was completely desperate. So her parents had to seek help from a priest. The priest had once said that someone strong enough would break that curse. Thinking about this, Selin had worked hard to train, but luck had never smiled upon her. One day, in anger, she risked removing the belt and was surprised to see it fall off easily. At that moment, she realized Lloyd was her destined person. Meanwhile, Lloyd had completed buying the groceries Marie requested and even spent the extra money on gifts, which made her very happy. At the same time, the girl heard that the number of candidates recruited by Myrthohan was increasing. The diplomatic situation was deteriorating, and with the queen missing, the army had to quickly consolidate its forces. Elsewhere, she noticed Riho, a wanted mercenary. Myrthohan believed that her nature was essentially that of a mercenary, so once she joined the army, the arrest warrant would be removed. Coincidentally, they both saw Alan scolding the princess for not removing her belt, affecting his honor. Myrthohan understood that Alan valued honor and had once declared that as soon as he became an officer, he would immediately enlist. At this point, Riho planned to take advantage of some people, but when she saw Lloyd appear with overwhelming presence, she suddenly became scared. Lloyd surprisingly complimented her arm as being cool, making Riho more tense. While Lloyd was greeting them, Selin suddenly appeared and pulled Riho away for interrogation. Lloyd quickly explained that he had just met her, so Selin let it go. Riho recognized Selin as someone she could exploit and secretly made plans. Finally, the martial arts test began, and the referee allowed everyone to choose weapons to attack the target. Riho came to talk to Myrthohan, making him think she was going to quit. But she affirmed that she would not miss the opportunity, especially when promised to have her criminal record erased and receive payment. She wondered which faction Lloyd belonged to, being so strong, but Myrthohan was also unclear, only knowing that Lloyd had submitted his application himself. According to him, even if everyone here joined forces, it would be difficult to defeat him. When Riho was called to compete, Lloyd was also preparing to take part in the test. Myrthohan wanted to observe, but was called away by a colleague, only hoping that Lloyd would pass. Meanwhile, Marie was enjoying pastries and waiting for news when her master suddenly appeared. She knew well that although Lloyd always claimed to be weak, the truth was not so, because Lloyd was born and raised in Conran village, a legendary land of heroes. His failure was almost impossible. Elsewhere, Lloyd was looking at the competition results board, but no matter how many times he read it, he still couldn't find his name. The next day, Riho and Selin kept searching for Lloyd, but still couldn't see him appear. Even Myrthohan lost his composure to the point of forgetting his usual seriousness as he tried to find Lloyd's name on the list. In his confusion, he even blurted out asking anyone who wasn't present to raise their hand, resulting in a scolding from his colleague for talking nonsense. Colleen announced that the Kingdom of Azami and the Empire of Ziyu were in a tense situation that could erupt into war at any moment. Myrthohan muttered that without Lloyd, the country would be in danger, while Riho and Selin were almost out of control due to his absence. Colleen continued to recount the disappearance of Princess Azami, but the trio was still only concerned about Lloyd. Colleen had to declare that anyone who found the princess would be richly rewarded with both wealth and status. Meanwhile, after learning the results, Lloyd sadly returned home. He understood that both the martial arts and written tests had not met expectations, but a feeling of discontent still tormented him. While reading an advertisement on the street, the monster that had caused trouble before appeared again. With just a wave of his hand, Lloyd sent it away without any difficulty. Following the address on the paper, he found a restaurant, where he was suddenly attacked by a middle-aged man. Lloyd easily dodged, leaving the man utterly astonished and even more shocked when he recognized the unlimited potential power within the boy. The man wondered if this young man had come to gather information about the kingdom through a former royal guard like himself. However, Lloyd simply explained that he had come because he saw a job advertisement. The man was skeptical and asked what skills Lloyd had. Lloyd confidently answered that he was good at cooking and cleaning, leaving the man in a state of disbelief. Lloyd asserted that if he claimed second place, no one would dare claim first. The owner thought they were about to duel, but Lloyd asked to prove himself immediately by going into the kitchen. While preparing food, Lloyd shared that he had just failed the officer exam. This made the man think Lloyd was lying, But Lloyd continued to explain that because everyone in the village had expectations, he didn't want to return in failure and decided to stay in the city for a while to try again next year. Hearing this, the man gradually believed Lloyd was just an ordinary person, though when recalling Lloyd's agile movements, he still remained cautious. At the same time, Murthohan was reviewing Lloyd's exam paper and discovered it was full of scribbles. He was scolded by a colleague for abandoning his work to chat with women. Selin, however, argued that Lloyd was actually talented, but just couldn't control his love for art on the exam paper. When Colleen took a look, she recognized that what everyone thought was doodling was actually ancient text. Murthohan's ignorance earned him another reprimand. Colleen continued to ask about Lloyd's whereabouts, but no one knew. Meanwhile, Lloyd had completed the tomato sauce fish dish. The man hesitated to eat, fearing it might be a trap, but as a former troop leader, he accepted the challenge. Earlier, Colleen had also explained that ancient text could create things that ordinary magic couldn't, depending on the user's vocabulary, skills, and magical power. Murthohan went to the officer who had interviewed Lloyd to inquire and learned that Lloyd had claimed to only know how to use rain magic. The officer didn't believe it, but Colleen affirmed that for someone who understood ancient magic, the rain spell was just a normal thing. After tasting the food, the man had to admit that Lloyd's cooking skills were outstanding. Finally, he introduced himself as Chrome and accepted Lloyd for the job, but still intended to monitor his every move. Colleen regretted missing out on Lloyd and not seeing more rune text, while Selin was determined to find the princess to secure a place for Lloyd at the officer's school. In the evening, Lloyd returned to tell Marie about failing the test, which made Alka so angry she wanted to destroy the entire kingdom. Lloyd reassured her that he would try again next year and expressed his wish to stay in the city, promising to pay rent in full. Seeing his determination, Alka agreed and even planned to create an additional room and buy a double bed to stay with him. Marie took this opportunity to ask her master to save the kingdom, as 5 years ago, the king of Azami suddenly became eager for war. She suspected someone was manipulating him and would use the national founding celebration to declare war. This year's festival would be attended by diplomatic delegations and leaders from many countries, making it an extremely sensitive time. Marie was determined to investigate and expose the mastermind, while Alka just reminded her student not to be hasty and not to involve Lloyd, while also requesting that they find a way to help him enter the officer's school soon. She revealed that she wanted Lloyd to become a soldier to fulfill a great wish. After Alka left, Marie, out of frustration, made a joke, resulting in a curse of medium misfortune, immediately causing her to get a cramp in a miserable state. Meanwhile, Riho advised Murthohan to let Selin take care of Lloyd's matter, and they should focus on finding the missing princess. Murthohan knew that Lloyd's strength was what the country needed as war was approaching. He noticed the restaurant was unusually crowded today. The food that used to be cheap and bad was now surprisingly good, and even the floor was clean and shiny. He revealed to Riho that the restaurant owner used to be a troop leader serving the princess. Right after that, Chrome brought out food that both couldn't stop praising. He said he had just recruited a new employee. Murthohan wondered who would apply to work at such a terrible place. And just as Lloyd brought out food, everyone was stunned the person they had been searching for far and wide was right in front of them. Murthohan quickly asked Chrome why Lloyd was there. Chrome thought Murthohan already knew Lloyd, but he really didn't know anything about him. Chrome sensed that Lloyd was very strong and was always afraid that Lloyd would deal with him, while wondering why the army would reject such a formidable figure. While taking out the trash, Lloyd encountered a monster, but just saw it as an ordinary animal, easily throwing it away and continuing to think about how to deal with the pile of garbage. On the way to find the incinerator, he accidentally saw Marie enter an alley. At the same time, 2 soldiers also mentioned monsters and entered. Lloyd decided to follow. At the officer's school, Selin, having heard rumors that someone had seen Lloyd, went to investigate but discovered it was a lie. She angrily punished the person who had deceived her, an action that prompted Alan, a local nobleman, to criticize her for affecting his honor. He drew his weapon, demanding to teach her a lesson. Selin immediately responded, ready to fight for the goal of finding the person she considered her destiny. Alan's speed made it difficult for Selin to manage, but her belt unexpectedly counterattacked, saving her in the nick of time. Selin thought it was the power of Lloyd's love for her. Right at that moment, Lloyd appeared, making her even more convinced that destiny had arrived. Colleen came to stop the fight, and Chrome's group also arrived in time. Selin proudly claimed that Lloyd had just fought to protect her. Murthohan immediately questioned this. Alan asserted that he still adhered to military rules and had not attacked civilians, but Murthohan still harshly argued that proper punishment would be what real soldiers do. Colleen intervened, saying Murthohan was going too far, but he revealed that Lloyd was the one who wrote the rune text. Colleen immediately ordered Alan and Lloyd to duel. Alan thought the colonels wanted to witness Lloyd's strength, so he persuaded Lloyd to participate. Lloyd said he was weak, but ultimately had to accept. Riho thought Alan would win with just one move, but Murthohan believed Lloyd was not ordinary. Alan suggested that Lloyd should throw a strong punch at his face, which surprised even Murthohan. As Lloyd prepared to attack, everyone hurriedly tried to stop him, fearing Alan wouldn't survive. At that moment, a strange wind blew in, and Marie appeared, picking up Lloyd and leaving, to everyone's astonishment. After landing safely, Marie scolded Lloyd for being too careless in daring to confront the enemy. He immediately apologized and was deeply moved that she had just saved his life, promising to do everything to repay her. That promise made Marie happy, but she still maintained some clarity and reminded him that he shouldn't speak that way because he could be exploited by bad people like her. Lloyd believed that Marie was inherently a good person. His innocence left her completely helpless before his cuteness. While the two were still chatting, Chrome appeared and called Lloyd to return to help him look after the restaurant. As soon as Lloyd left, Chrome respectfully bowed to Marie. She was surprised to see him there, and Chrome explained that he had left the military after failing in his mission to protect the princess. Since then, he had been living under the guise of a restaurant owner, but continued to secretly investigate the princess's whereabouts as well as the reason for the king's change. Marie said everything would soon be resolved because on the third day of the festival, the mastermind would certainly use the king's name to declare war. However, she still didn't know the true identity of the person behind it, so she wanted Chrome's help to find out more. Meanwhile, Murthohan continued to work tirelessly, making Colleen brew him a cup of coffee. She wondered why he was so dedicated. Murthohan recounted that he was born into poverty and had witnessed Ziyu troops coming to plunder all their food, which left him with a deep hatred and a vow to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. As for Selen, because she didn't meet the important person yesterday, she was quite worried today. Riho reassured her that as long as she wanted, she could do it anytime. The current issue was to find the princess, otherwise Lloyd's admission to school would remain just a dream. With no other option, they both decided to visit Marie's information shop to inquire. Unexpectedly, they met Lloyd there, which immediately made Selen imagine countless scenarios between him and Marie. Riho thought this was no big deal, but Selen still believed destiny existed between them. Riho suspected that Lloyd had accidentally unsealed the belt, which was why Selen had such delusions. While they were both confused, Marie returned and collapsed to sleep. When she realized there were guests, she suddenly caught Selen's sharp gaze, which made her cautious as well. Lloyd introduced them as his friends who wanted to buy information from Marie. Riho gave her a photo and asked her to find the person. But Marie immediately refused because she didn't want to get involved in the missing princess matter. Riho wondered why, since she hadn't mentioned the princess yet, an attitude that made him more suspicious. When he heard that Marie had been living there for 2 years, Selen's heart ached to the point of tears. She had originally intended to ask something else, but the guilt in Marie's eyes made her think Marie was the princess. While Selen just wanted to ask if Marie was Lloyd's wife, Marie admitted to being the princess. Riho was stunned that the person they had been searching for all along was right in front of them. Marie then explained that she and Lloyd were just like close relatives, which relieved Selen. Riho still challenged her because earlier she had claimed to be the princess, but Marie changed the subject. When all misunderstandings were resolved, Selen returned to the main topic, earnestly hoping Marie would provide information to help Lloyd get a chance to enter the officer school. Marie set a condition that they must exchange information, for example, telling her about the king's situation or the military's movements. Nevertheless, Riho was still determined to clarify her true identity. Finally, Marie was forced to admit, and just then, Lloyd appeared and said he had already recognized her as the person who had saved him with wind magic and silently eliminated monsters to protect people. He believed the kingdom was in danger and begged her to let him join the fight. Marie saw this as a lifeline but still tried to appear strict, saying he didn't have the ability to follow her. Lloyd explained hard and pleaded, but she still refused for fear that he would only become a burden. Lloyd felt he was too intrusive, so he apologized and ran into the room. After Lloyd had gone, Marie expressed her desire to cooperate with Riho and Selen to find the mastermind behind the war plot. Then, she admitted she was indeed the princess and was immediately questioned by Riho about why she spoke so harshly to Lloyd. Selen couldn't hold back either and blamed her, causing the two to accidentally argue, making Marie laugh at their childishness. Then she explained that Lloyd was originally from Kanran village, where there was an unwritten law that absolutely forbade interference in human affairs. That was why she had to appear cold to him. Otherwise, Lloyd would be taken back to the village and couldn't fulfill his dream. Marie also revealed that many forces were searching for the princess, and whether she lived or died, they would accept it. Surely the person manipulating the king was the one who wanted to use her as a symbol to incite the anti-war faction, which was why she found it difficult to act openly and needed Riho and Selen's help. Both understood and agreed to cooperate. That night, Lloyd kept thinking about what Marie had said and began to doubt whether he was strong enough to become a soldier. Marie was also troubled, unable to sleep because of her worries about the country's future. She was considering a plan to rescue her father when Alka suddenly appeared. She reproached Marie for keeping her promise not to let Lloyd participate, but was displeased that she had thrown the crystal ball down a well. She decided to punish her by cursing her to say meow meow after every 10 sentences. Moreover, Alka also announced that she had arranged a date between Lloyd and herself on the National Founding Festival Day, so Marie didn't need to worry about him anymore. Hearing this, Marie was shocked, never expecting her master would abandon her at such a critical moment. In the following days, Riho and Selen continued to investigate information about the mysterious person behind everything. Although they weren't clear who he was, many rumors said that person constantly claimed everything was for the country's peace. Soon the festival arrived, and Lloyd went with Alka, but was in low spirits because he felt useless. Alka developed strange emotions before this melancholy, trying to get him to participate in various games, but without success. Finally, she decided to use another method, taking out chocolate to tease him, when suddenly monsters appeared, causing chaos. During this time, Chrome was having an audience with the king, asking to be reinstated as a soldier. The king didn't respond, and Murthohan told Chrome to return and would inform him later. But Chrome didn't hide anymore and directly exposed the truth, recounting that after his investigation, he had realized the person behind everything was none other than Murthohan, as he always used peace as an excuse to justify his actions. Murthohan thought the king was just a useless puppet, while he was the one making things useful. But the king unexpectedly counterattacked, knocking Murthohan away and saying he had never been manipulated by him. In fact, he was just pretending to use him to break the seal. All the attacks on villages and humans were orchestrated by the king. Murthohan bitterly realized he was just a pawn being used. His hatred for the royal family burned even more, causing him to join forces with the king to ignite war. The king immediately transformed him into a monster to exploit his strength and then took the opportunity to escape. Riho risked her life to block Murthohan's path, while Marie chased after the imposter king. She quickly caught up and fought with him to save her father. Just as she was about to deliver the final blow, the fake king used his real voice, causing her to lose focus and suffer a serious wound. He approached, lifted her up, and threatened to finish her off. Marie thought of the unfinished apology to Lloyd and refused to give up, struggling to stand and fight back. At that moment, the madman roared, declaring he would rule the world because he was the demon lord Abaddon. Lloyd only needed to snap his fingers once to make all the insects collapse. Alka was very annoyed because they dared to ruin her romantic date, but then she realized the grasshopper looked quite familiar. Lloyd guessed that Marie was in danger and asked the village chief for permission to leave. Despite being weak himself or the fact that this might anger Alka, he was determined to go. As for Marie, upon discovering that the fake king was actually the demon lord, she was extremely angry for not realizing it sooner. She thought that if she had known earlier, she and Lloyd wouldn't have argued needlessly, and Lloyd would have a legitimate reason to participate since the opponent was a demon lord. When the old man was about to strike again, Marie quickly fled to seek reinforcements. On the way to the palace, Lloyd accidentally knocked away a monster, saving Alan's life. Alan shamefully confessed that he was running away because the monsters were too frightening. Lloyd understood that feeling, but he recalled the soldiers he had always admired, who always moved forward regardless of who the enemy was. He shared with Alan that he had failed the exam, but in his heart, he still wanted to contribute a small part of his strength to the country. While they were talking, another monster suddenly appeared, and Lloyd immediately eliminated it. Alan then said that Lloyd shouldn't make things up because he had clearly just punched a monster away. But in Lloyd's eyes, it was just a harmless bug. After that, Lloyd encouraged Alan that he would certainly become stronger and quickly left. On his way back, Alan heard cries for help. He remembered Lloyd's encouragement and felt empowered, thus easily defeating the monsters. When he looked up at the sky, he was amazed to see a giant magic array created by Alka. She had discovered that these monsters were the Demon Lord's minions, and once they were involved with him, Alka couldn't stand by and do nothing. More importantly, they had ruined her date with Lloyd, so she had to punish them severely. Meanwhile, both Chrome and Riho were no match for Murthohan, so Selen had to seek Lloyd's help by using herself as bait. She believed that a hero would appear just when the heroine was in danger. Selen continuously provoked Murthohan to attack, but the belt on her body countered all his attacks. She wasn't satisfied because this would prevent her from falling into Lloyd's arms as she had hoped. Riho didn't care and just ordered Selen to keep Murthohan occupied so she would have time to find Lloyd. Unexpectedly, just as Riho left, Lloyd arrived, making Selen overjoyed. However, her plan to throw herself into Lloyd's arms failed because he was only concerned about Chrome's safety. After grasping the situation, Lloyd asked Murthohan what he intended to do next. Murthohan responded with continuous attacks, but to no avail. Lloyd began a mind-awakening technique, saying that soldiers were heroes who protected the country's life and peace, and reminded Murthohan of the noble ideal he had once pursued. Hearing this, Murthohan gradually regained his sanity and admitted that all his actions were for a peaceful future, a place without war and only with the smiles of the people. Just when the atmosphere became touching, Lloyd unexpectedly dropped a sarcastic comment, suggesting that Murthohan had just drunk too much and dressed up as a strange being, not speaking like a soldier at all. The group was mentally shaken by this, and Murthohan went mad again because of the false accusation, causing the entire plan to fail. Murthohan lunged toward Lloyd, but was headbutted into a wall and knocked unconscious. Lloyd was about to go find Marie when she suddenly rushed in. He quickly apologized for coming here on his own, but to his surprise, Marie welcomed him joyfully. At that moment, the Demon Lord also appeared, but the naive Lloyd thought he was just a civilian who was drunk like Murthohan and had disguised himself as the king. Marie took the opportunity to boast that she had just defeated the final boss. Therefore, Marie suggested that Lloyd use the ancient rune text to remove all the impurities clinging to the old man. The Demon Lord struggled, but not significantly, and was finally purified by Lloyd and gradually disappeared. In that moment, Lloyd, with tears in his eyes, healed Marie's wounds, and the two resolved all misunderstandings. Selen, having no official status, could do nothing to Marie despite her anger. Despite many events, fortunately, the National Founding Festival ended successfully. While walking, Lloyd coincidentally met his old sworn brother, who told him he was delivering goods here and congratulated Lloyd for defeating the Demon Lord. Right after that, Alka ran to find Lloyd, tempting him with the famous chocolate banana. Lloyd said he had just met his neighbor, but when he turned around, that person had suddenly disappeared, making Alka feel suspicious. A few days later, Chrome was reinstated and returned to work at the officer school. Colleen asked about Murthohan's situation, but was mocked by Chrome for paying attention to him. Colleen immediately delivered a kick to Chrome's stomach and warned him to be careful with his words. According to the royal family's judgment, Murthohan was exiled to a remote, dangerous land. He was almost devoured by a white rabbit, but fortunately, Alka appeared just in time to knock the beast away, saving his life. Alka required Murthohan to take care of the wheat fields because previously the grasshopper demon lord had caused the continent to fall into famine, at which time she had used rune text to modify the wheat variety to be harvestable year-round. Remembering that his village had once received wheat to save them from starvation, Murthohan was deeply moved. After entrusting the mission to Murthohan, Alka went to find Lloyd. The old woman from the village casually barged into his room to watch him change clothes, but Marie discovered her and dragged her out for questioning. Alka confessed that she wanted Lloyd to become a soldier just to see him wear the majestic uniform. Marie thought that reason was too unreasonable and sent Alka back to the village. As for herself, Marie had decided to stay because she really enjoyed her current free life. A moment later, Lloyd appeared in uniform, leaving everyone stunned. Marie wondered who had helped Lloyd get admitted to school, when Selen's group appeared and invited him to go to school together. As soon as they met, Selen and Alka showed fierce confrontation. Alka intended to teach Selen a lesson, but her belt automatically protected its owner. Alka revealed that earlier she had intended to use rune text to cause Selen pain, but that plot had been prevented by Lloyd's destined red thread. Alka realized it was the skin of the village's hereditary treasure, with the ability to protect the wearer from all malicious intent. Alan also came to welcome Lloyd, thanks to which Lloyd revealed that it was Alan who had helped him get admitted. Alan recounted being saved by Lloyd on the day the monsters appeared, and because he wanted to be promoted due to that day's merit, he had helped Lloyd join the school. Selen sarcastically remarked that Alan didn't need that much fame. Alan just said he would temporarily set aside personal matters, as fulfilling his master's dream was a disciple's responsibility. Despite being rejected by Lloyd, he still firmly refused to give up until Lloyd agreed. Alka, displeased with Selen's attitude, sneak attacked her. The two constantly argued, while Lloyd's group discussed taking on disciples. This group was very strong, but internal conflicts made the atmosphere tense. Finally, Marie couldn't stand the noise anymore and sent the old woman back to the village, allowing Lloyd's group to peacefully begin their student life at the officer school. That evening, on the way back, Lloyd looked up at the starry sky. Marie expressed her gratitude for his help, while he replied that even an ordinary person would have done the same. When the whole group appeared, the village chief angrily questioned them. It turned out Marie was interested in the sword because she had heard that whoever possessed it would rule the world. But in reality, if one didn't have enough magical power, they couldn't pull it out. The village chief was using it for profit. So Marie asked Lloyd to draw the sword to foil the plot. She suspected it was just a fake and needed to announce that the sword had been drawn as soon as possible. On the first day at the academy, Lloyd quickly demonstrated his superior strength, easily surpassing everyone. Afterward, Colleen announced the postponement of the class to select someone for a friendly match with ZU Magic Academy. Alan knew that in recent years, Azami School had always been defeated, so Colleen was eager for victory. She explained 3 ways to use magic, including reading incantations combined with drawing symbols, using magic stones or wands as intermediaries. After the theory part, she provided magic-resistant mannequins for practice. Selen and Riho demonstrated fire magic that caught Colleen's attention. When it was Lloyd's turn, he accidentally created a firestorm that swept away the entire forest but thought he had failed. After several experiments, Colleen advised him to use wind magic, but Riho objected because it could cause casualties. Indeed, the mannequin was shattered into hundreds of pieces, forcing Colleen to apologize for not allowing Lloyd to participate. During the break, Selen asked to learn healing magic because she wanted to heal her loved one. Riho thought this type of magic was extremely difficult. Many people had given up because even small mistakes could cause serious consequences. Alan advised that the more difficult it was, the more one should learn to build a foundation, and Lloyd agreed. So Colleen opened a healing training class, using Alan as a guinea pig. Despite screaming fiercely, Alan eventually had to accept his fate. Another day, while Marie was resting, 2 guests visited. After the introduction, she realized they were the Rockjo sisters, who came to ask her to find the person in a photo, none other than Riho. At that moment, Philo sensed the power emanating from Lloyd and immediately attacked. But even when hit, Lloyd remained unharmed. He naively thought the opponent was aiming at a fly and apologized for not dodging in time. When Marie accidentally revealed that she knew the person in the photo, she quickly stopped herself. Philo forgot the original purpose and insisted on taking Lloyd as her master, even willing to be a servant. Lloyd said this was Marie's house, so Philo turned to ask for her permission. The excessive enthusiasm made Marie angry, and she kicked both of them out. After that kick, Lloyd felt his ribs were broken, but he said it would heal itself in 3 hours. Marie told herself to get used to this strange ability since they were living together. While Marie was still daydreaming about the future, Alka suddenly came to reproach her for taking Lloyd to the Holy Sword Village. The old woman was irritated to see Marie infatuated with Lloyd's smile. When Lloyd came out, Marie had been turned into a butterfly. Only at midnight did she return to human form, but unfortunately, Lloyd caught her in a naked state. He was shocked but pretended not to see and quietly returned to his room. Soon the friendly exam approached. Chrome saw everyone working hard and wanted to prepare rewards. Colleen revealed the reason for her desire to win. It was because of Roll, who had once studied at the Rockjo school and now had become the dean. She was originally ambitious. When she was a teacher, she had eliminated many rivals to climb to the position of dean. Roll openly threatened Riho to return to her side if she didn't want to lose something important. Riho was indignant at this attitude, but Roll was still waiting for an answer on the exam day. Before leaving, Philo reminded Lloyd to think about accepting her as a disciple. Selin immediately intervened with questions, while Lloyd naively said that she wanted to live together, making Selin even angrier. In subsequent classes, Lloyd realized Riho had something difficult to say. That night, Marie was tense when she remembered being seen by Lloyd in an embarrassing situation, but Lloyd asked how to make someone happy. Marie thought he wanted to comfort her, so she eagerly suggested inviting the person for cake and tea like a date. He worried that he was too ordinary, but Marie reassured him that all girls liked it. So Lloyd decided to invite Riho on a date, stunning Marie, who had misunderstood the situation. Meanwhile, Selin was angry with Riho because she feared Lloyd would no longer pay attention to her. She showed Riho a handsome picture of Lloyd, but Riho didn't care. Alan teased her, earning a kick in return. Afterward, Lloyd surprisingly approached Riho and asked her for a date. At the tea shop, he sincerely advised Riho to express her feelings because he saw she wasn't happy. Selin secretly followed, angry to the point of crawling on all fours, accidentally discovered by Alan, whom she then beat to keep the secret. Finally, Riho opened up and shared her past at the orphanage. Roll had once taught her magic, and when Riho injured her hand, Roll brought her a prosthetic arm, making her happy. But in reality, Roll wanted to exploit it to enhance magic power, even using life force in exchange for the ability to draw the holy sword. Unable to remove that arm, Riho had no choice but to escape. Roll had also framed many crimes, turning Riho into a wanted criminal. Her faith was completely shattered. Lloyd didn't hesitate to hold her hand and comfort her, promising that although he was ordinary now, he would become a solid support for Riho in the future. Selin suddenly appeared, scolding Riho for betrayal by hiding this, but also confessed that without her, she would be very lonely. The group united in their determination to win the friendly match, moving Riho. The next day, Roll brought the two Philo sisters to the meeting point. Philo held Lloyd's hand, asking him to be her opponent, making Selin angry. Colleen was about to announce that Lloyd wouldn't participate when, surprisingly, a character named Makona appeared, claiming she would substitute to prove herself superior. The match began. Makona cast a fierce rain and wind, but quickly exhausted herself. Lloyd offered to help but was despised by her, who thought he was just useless. Always self-deprecating, Lloyd silently accepted. After the match, Makona went to Marie for bandaging and was moved by her smile. Seeing her friend blush, Marie thought she had a fever and took her temperature, making Makona even more flustered. But Lloyd's appearance broke the moment, making Makona feel like an intruder, so she left in the rain. A few days later, the official friendly match took place. In the past, Riho had been wholeheartedly devoted to Roll, but now she had corrupted. Riho declared she would protect the orphanage and make Roll pay. Before starting, Chrome announced the prize for the winner, a large sum of money and the opportunity to touch the holy sword. Riho was suspicious about the origin of the prosthetic arm and questioned it, making Colleen cautious as well. After hearing the story related to Riho's arm, Colleen finally understood the issue. When she learned about the matter, Roll became angry and decided to participate in the competition, forcing Colleen to break the rules to let Lloyd enter the field. At the same time, Riho also approached Colleen, earnestly asking to learn healing magic. At this time, Alka continued to torture Marie because she believed Marie had made her miss seeing Lloyd shine in the arena. But villagers seeking help forced Alka to return. Before leaving, she cast a curse causing Marie to fall every 10 minutes. To break it, Marie had to sincerely repent. Marie had no choice but to struggle to run to the toilet to relieve her suffering. The competition format was determined to be one-on-one, with whoever won 2 matches claiming the overall victory. The fighters were only allowed to use magic, wands, magic stones, or magical tools, while physical attacks were prohibited. Violators would be immediately disqualified. Roll looked down on Lloyd, but Selin immediately stood up to defend him. In the first match, Selin had to face Philo. Initially, Selin was confident because of her protective belt, but it didn't react to the attack, almost costing her. After a period of struggling to avoid attacks, Selin gradually subdued it and began to comfortably block attacks, even using the belt to lock the opponent. Just when victory seemed at hand, the referee declared Philo the winner because Selin had violated the rule against using physical attacks. After losing the first match, Colleen deployed her trump card, Lloyd against the younger sister. Knowing Lloyd's strength and physical power, the younger sister appeared confident because this was a magic match. She created a water ball hoping to suffocate Lloyd. But after 20 minutes, he still stood firm, forcing her to dispel it. She continued to create water walls and fog to blind him. But Lloyd still pierced through and used wind to knock the opponent against the wall. Despite the overwhelming victory, he was embarrassed because he had accidentally misread the incantation. The younger sister was carried out by Philo, feeling extremely dissatisfied with Lloyd's superior strength. The final match was a tense confrontation between Riho and Roll. Roll used the Midran arm to enhance magic power, determined to exhaust Riho. She even declared that Riho would certainly fail. Roll quickly grabbed Riho's prosthetic arm, believing she had secured victory. But Riho took advantage of the opening and counterattacked with her remaining arm. Previously, Roll had taught that if a foreign object entered a wound and was then sealed by healing magic, it would integrate into the body. Riho had exploited this by inserting magic stones into the wound and then using healing magic, horrifying Roll. Not stopping there, she pretended to recite a high-level incantation, causing Roll to panic and faint. Thus, Riho won without spending too much energy, thanks to her quick thinking and adaptability. Roll was not resigned, still yearning to reach a higher position. A strange voice spoke, revealing that there was a place only for the elite, and to reach it, one must possess the holy sword with ruling power. Before she could grasp it, Roll woke up and hastily asked her assistant about the holy sword, learning that it had been given to Lloyd. While Riho and Selen had to be hospitalized, the assistant further reported that the person who drew the holy sword was an Eastern witch living with her younger brother and doting on that boy. Roll immediately came up with a plan to draw the witch to her side, so she ordered Philo to break in and kidnap that brother. Philo went there and saw Marie kneeling before a crystal ball because of the curse of continuous falling, even dropping a hairpin given by Lloyd. Misunderstanding the crystal ball as a valuable item needing protection, Philo took it away. When Lloyd brought the holy sword home, he discovered Marie's hairpin on the floor and a note left behind, which stated that an important person had been captured, and if he wanted them safe, he had to bring the sword to the southern lighthouse. At that moment, Alan came by, so Lloyd invited him to join the rescue. Meanwhile, Roll was disappointed to see Philo bringing the crystal ball instead of a hostage. The assistant suddenly reported that Lloyd and Alan were on their way with the holy sword. Meeting Lloyd again, Philo recklessly demanded a rematch, refusing to reveal where Marie was imprisoned. She saw Lloyd as a worthy opponent for a life or death duel. To exchange for information, Lloyd had to accept but was still worried because he had previously lost when fighting with girls. Observing the wooden barrel beside him, he came up with a challenge for Philo: arm wrestling, making up a story that this was a martial tradition from his hometown. Upon hearing about Kanran village, Philo laughed, thinking she understood the source of his destructive power. So the two entered into an intense arm wrestling match, flying from the ground to the sky. Just when she thought she was about to win, Philo was suddenly overpowered by Lloyd, pressed to the ground, and he claimed victory. Rather than being disappointed, Philo confessed her feelings to Lloyd because she believed he was worthy of her affection and didn't want to marry someone outside martial arts. Lloyd ignored this, only persistently asking about Marie, forcing Philo to recount the whole incident. Just as Mina and Alan appeared, Philo boasted that she had found her love interest. Meanwhile, Alka came to ask Roll about Lloyd. Being refused and scolded, Alka became angry and vented her fury on Roll. Seeing this, Alan couldn't ignore it and stepped in to help. This action earned him praise in the newspapers the following day. After the incident, Chrome decided to store the holy sword in the palace's treasure vault to avoid further trouble. As for Roll, while in the hospital, she began to reflect on her life, recalling the days with Riho at the orphanage. At that time, Riho was passionate about healing magic, while Roll only wanted to teach from the basics. The two had promised that when they grew up, they would improve this place beautifully. Back to reality, Riho came to visit, peeling apples while affirming she would return, making Roll more attached to the past. A few days later, the Philo sisters quietly entered the forest with the mission of capturing a man. According to Mina, this was a task assigned by the king, accompanied by a generous budget, so she was excited to see this as an opportunity to enjoy a lavish steak dinner. However, before starting, they both had to take the victim to the medical station for wound treatment. Because tomorrow began a long holiday, Riho had to miss the horse race. Suddenly, Selen appeared in an extremely depressed mood because her parents forced her to go home. Thus, her plan for an intimate hot spring trip with Lloyd had vanished into thin air. Selen even considered burning down the house to force a date with the boy. But Lloyd refused because he had other plans. Not giving up, Selin again fantasized that Lloyd was thinking about marriage. Riho had to remind her to maintain her dignity, and was immediately interrogated by Selin about why she had invited Lloyd on a date. Riho was about to explain when Alan interrupted, boasting that the young man was going to a matchmaking meeting, and the girl's family had taken the initiative, making Alan feel very important. Without anything happening yet, he had already imagined 7,749 romantic scenarios, but no one was much interested in hearing his sappy romantic stories. When Lloyd returned home, he encountered Marie and Alka intensely competing with each other. Lloyd announced that from tomorrow he would take on a part-time job, causing them both to temporarily stop arguing. He was introduced to a large hotel owned by Chrome's acquaintance to work. As they were short of cleaning and cooking staff, Lloyd couldn't refuse and immediately accepted. Alka used the excuse to visit, while Marie decided to go on a vacation to be with Lloyd. However, Lloyd threw cold water on their plans, telling them not to follow him because he didn't want anyone to depend on him. The next day, when Lloyd had not yet arrived at the hotel, his strong presence made the manager Raman, a former captain of the Royal Guard, feel terrified. Raman took Lloyd on a tour and told him about the strange phenomena that had been happening recently. Many staff had suddenly fallen into inexplicable comas. He had reported to his superiors waiting for investigators, while allowing Lloyd to assist. Lloyd volunteered to help with everything besides his main job. However, as soon as Raman left, Kikeo, a female employee, immediately became lazy, forcing Lloyd to do everything by himself. While she was pontificating at length, Lloyd had cleaned everything neatly, even polishing the ceiling to make the light shine brilliantly. Kikeo was confused, not knowing what kind of person Lloyd was. After that, Raman took Lloyd to change into his uniform, reminding him that tomorrow they would host a high-ranking noble and to always smile no matter how the guest behaved. The next morning, Raman and Lloyd welcomed Furionin. Although Raman served enthusiastically, Furionin felt he was trying to drive guests away, and the assistant offering wine was also ridiculed. The nobleman had multiple personalities. A minute later, he could feel comfortable drinking wine while enjoying the scenery. Furionin asked Lloyd about his impression of the forest and such, and Lloyd remarked that they were beautiful, but somewhat wasteful when used only for viewing. Seeing Lloyd's knowledge of ornamental plants, Furionin was surprised, learning that the boy had been taught by the woodcutters from his hometown. Furionin revealed that his family had once been in forestry, understanding the value of forests. If used just for sightseeing, it would lose its inherent nature. Raman was confused because he wasn't clear what Furionin really wanted to investigate. He seemed concerned about his son, who was the same age as Lloyd but had been behaving too disrespectfully lately. Those around continuously praised the beautiful cypress forest, but only Lloyd understood its true value, making Furionin feel like he had found a kindred spirit. That evening, Kikeo secretly reported to Furionin about someone illegally nurturing plant seedlings here for profit. Furionin suspected Raman, a former Azami soldier who had planned for war, was involved when a series of people fell unconscious. Before the cypress forest became a cultural heritage, he was determined to act to prevent it from becoming a tool of evildoers. Soon, his son would attend a noble matchmaking session, and the dealer of Trient seedlings would also be present, creating an opportunity to gather information. A Trient seedling, called the Demon Lord seedling, had been stolen from the monster research area. Some information brokers rumored that a peddler had brought the plant to this region. Since then, the unconscious cases had occurred continuously. According to scholars, plant seedlings parasitized throughout human and animal bodies, enhancing physical abilities amazingly. Kikeo recalled Lloyd and reported to Furionin about his strange strength. He instructed Kikeo to apply herbal medicine to Lloyd, or put it in his food to eliminate the Trient seedling. The next morning, Kikeo saw Lloyd chopping vegetables in the kitchen, no longer doubting, and quickly brought him a cup of tea containing medicine. Lloyd, with the responsibility of a reserve officer, couldn't stand by and watch others in difficulty. Kikeo privately thought Lloyd had been lured by Raman to join the army to implant the Trient seedling. As Lloyd prepared to drink, Raman suddenly appeared, telling him to go to sleep. He casually drank the cup of tea, but had to spit it out because it tasted terrible. Kikeo feared being exposed and hurriedly ran away. Raman realized the situation was serious and was determined to take revenge on those who caused the unconscious cases. Thanks to the generous reward, Riho decided to go on a relaxing vacation, satisfied with the hotel's scenery and amenities. Shortly after, Lloyd was assigned to massage a guest, who was none other than Riho. Lloyd explained that many strange cases had occurred recently, and he wanted to help. After preparing, Lloyd invited Riho to lie on the bed. He had to apologize because he couldn't accept the imaginary game of being touched all over. Suddenly, a piercing scream rang out. Meanwhile, Selin and her father arrived at a nearby hotel. Her father had prepared an outfit for her in advance. Just as she finished dressing, Selin was brought to the matchmaking meeting Alan. Selin pretended to be dizzy to leave, but was stopped by her father. She was disappointed and had to go with him. In Selin's mind arose various thoughts of revenge against Alan. When the door opened, Selin lunged in and pulled Lloyd into the room. The two fathers didn't intervene but discussed important matters. Lloyd wondered what Selin was doing there. She said love had connected them. The two planned to act affectionately together, but were warned by Riho. Riho asked Selin why she didn't question why the matchmaking candidate wasn't Alan, but she didn't care. Actually, earlier Alan had fainted in the bathroom, so Thurionen asked Lloyd to substitute. Knowing Lloyd's purpose for being there, Selin came up with a unique plan, to use the date to investigate the culprit, while Riho would take on the role of an investigator from the inside. It was such a sophisticated plan that Riho had to agree without objection. During their first date, Selin kept staring at Lloyd, making him feel mentally pressured, then forcing him to compliment her beauty. When Lloyd didn't cooperate, she immediately used force to intimidate him, making him worry that those around would see them acting unnaturally. Lloyd had never been put in such a situation before and had no choice but to comply with her request. However, Selin then went into hyperactive mode. Fortunately, Riho appeared just in time to rescue the unfortunate friend from the awkward situation. In the following days, Thurionen continued to use a body double for matchmaking, making Raman vow to expose all his schemes. Meanwhile, Riho asked Selin about today's purpose, but she only remembered that they had to investigate the case. Soma was delivering goods to the hotel and accidentally met Lloyd's group. He mentioned that someone had placed many bombs and gasoline to cause danger, so he brought additional magic stones to increase destructive power. Riho suspected it was Selin's trick, but she pretended to be innocent and hugged Lloyd. Lloyd introduced Soma as someone who had lived in the village with him, regarding him as a brother, and boasted that he had become a student at the officer school. Soma congratulated him and said goodbye to deliver his goods, while Selin delegated the task of transporting goods to Riho, and she and Lloyd continued investigating, though in reality, Lloyd had been monopolized by her for the entire day. While enjoying the view on a yacht, Selin recounted how she had been cursed by the belt, and her father had tried every way to help her. When the curse was broken, her family forced her to attend matchmaking sessions. But thanks to that, Selin found her destined love, which was Lloyd. Lloyd honestly said that without everyone's help, he couldn't have achieved what he had today. Selin reminded him that because he was always kind to many people, he deserved good things in return, making him feel more optimistic about life. Lloyd asked Selin to keep a secret, and the two shared their private joy. Kikioyo wanted to separate Lloyd from Selin, but the girl followed like Sam. Only when Selin left did Kikioyo dare to approach, but was still detected by Lloyd. Kikioyo planned to reward Lloyd with a magic lesson, but couldn't find the necessary items. A thought flashed, making her suspect the item was inside Lloyd's little brother. But before checking, Selin returned and attacked her. Kikioyo dodged, counterattacked, and Selin also joined in, helping her teammate escape and continue fighting. When Lloyd stepped out with a six-pack body, Selin couldn't focus, creating an opportunity for Kikioyo to retreat. Lloyd explained that he was shirtless to facilitate learning magic techniques, while Selin suggested he should go to hot springs for a peaceful, chill experience to cleanse his soul. However, the plan failed because Riho appeared, preventing Selin from unleashing her animalistic nature. Alka and Marie also came to visit, making Lloyd a bit uncomfortable. The Pillow Sisters had to use their martial power to shield everyone. Riho mistakenly thought they came to fight, but Mina explained that they belonged to the Azami Kingdom, and Pillow would now be a classmate of the group. Selin declared she would become Lloyd's disciple, even planning to make him her husband. Mina revealed she was ordered to investigate the disappearances around the hotel. Meanwhile, Selin struggled to prevent spiders from invading, while Maine talked about illegally raising husbands. Alka guessed that if not resolved soon, Trent wood, which grew around Lloyd's village, would invade the entire area. Everyone was shocked to learn that Selin was a village chief. Alka realized that Trent seedlings had parasitized and infiltrated the hotel. Marie warned that if not properly handled, the kingdom might have to redraw its map. Lloyd immediately decided to act with the village chief, despite Alka seeing the whole scene. Pillow quickly threw Alka to prevent a thief from following. Kikaoyo discovered that Thurionen's assistant was parasitized by Trint and knew he was the one who brought the seedling here. She scolded him to be quiet because he was annoying her mind. When he attacked Kikaoyo, Lloyd appeared just in time, breaking the tense atmosphere. Lloyd even complimented the secretary's new appearance, making him angry, simultaneously releasing all the Trints. He proclaimed himself as the Wood Demon Lord. Lloyd praised him for acting too authentically, and with just a few movements, he made the Trints disappear. Thurionen and Selen's father discussed illegal ways of raising Trint husbands, as the number of unconscious people was rapidly increasing. After Lloyd defeated them, the Trints returned to normal wood. Lloyd still thought everything was just a play by the secretary. Marie's group accidentally saw the secretary heading towards the castle. Selen's father revealed he had bought Trint from a young man who claimed to belong to a recent clan. Thurionen suspected him, but couldn't determine his location. Minoki broke through the glass, scolded Thurionen for being arrogant, and used the Demon Lord's seedling to lower his reputation. As soon as Minoki attacked, everyone cooperated to stop him. The Pillow Sisters with their double swords kicked him out. Because magic wasn't effective, Riho asked Selen and Pillow to hold him off while she ran away. Selen nearly got hit by a falling rock, but her father saved her just in time. Riho ordered Alan to throw bombs at Minoki. The Pillow Sisters combined fire and gasoline to control him. Diamond dust was created to freeze Minoki, but he could still attack, so the group had to coordinate to handle the core inside. Selen tried to save her father from the rocks, while praising Lloyd as a good person. Another rock fell, but Lloyd timely told her to take her father to a safe place. Lloyd received information from the other side that the secretary wasn't acting, but was a real monster, so he decided to take a risk, overcame obstacles, and destroyed Minoki's core. This was the first time Lloyd defeated a monster, making him excited and happy because everyone trusted him. Soma observed from afar, also feeling proud. The village chief woke up, discovering he had been buried by Soma, but knew that the immortal Alka would be fine. Alka was angry that Soma had colluded with the villain, but he wasn't afraid at all and even provoked Alka, saying there was still much to enjoy. After the event, Alka spent a lot of effort erasing the memories of innocent people and repairing the hotel. Thurionen apologized to Ramen for not closely monitoring his subordinates. Ramen also admitted his fault for suspecting Thurionen, promising to treat him generously. Thurionen gave Kikaoyu to Kamen to use as he pleased. Selen's father apologized for forcing his daughter to attend many matchmaking sessions, promised to monitor Selen's path as a soldier, and asked Lloyd to take good care of her. Selen imagined marrying Lloyd, requiring Riho and Pillow to pull her back to reality. Alka was tired and wanted a massage to relax. Lloyd approached, hugged her, and practiced the bone-breaking technique he had just learned from Kikaoyu. On a quiet night, Soma led Makona to meet a man who looked like a priest, but not quite. When he saw Makona's determined eyes wanting to end Lloyd to seize love, he told Soma to give her a medicine. The young man explained it was made from Trint and Abaddon, but Makona didn't care much and drank it immediately. Right after that, her body transformed violently, causing pain to come, while Soma was very excited and hoped she would overcome it to control the extraordinary power. Thanks to her strong will, Makona controlled herself and was ready to set out for a duel with Lloyd. Meanwhile, Lloyd, after returning home, continued his role as an unpaid helper for Marie. Although he had prepared breakfast and served it directly, Marie was still lazy, asking him to feed her, and Lloyd complied but felt something wasn't right. It turned out Selen had suddenly appeared and taught Marie a lesson for daring to touch her husband. Lloyd said that today he would go with everyone to fight the Great Serpent as instructed by the king. Marie was annoyed that the king was pushing Lloyd into danger. But thinking carefully, Lloyd was actually the dangerous one. Although he wasn't familiar with that place, to become an exemplary soldier, he had to train. Alan was worried when he heard about the Great Serpent, whereas Selen was eager to go to have a chance to get close to her crush. But Philo immediately stopped her and claimed she was the one to go with Lloyd. Colleen then ordered everyone to seriously welcome the king. Unexpectedly, he appeared in a very unsightly state. Colleen said that the Great Serpent was on the deepest floor, surrounded by carefully guarding soldiers, but there could still be incidents, so she warned the group to be vigilant. Hearing that the army had discovered the Great Serpent, Soma wanted to act early so it wouldn't fall into their hands, while Alka, who was hunting for Soma, was one step behind. Before going in, Lloyd expressed his desire for team support. Riho immediately replied that he agreed, while Selen and Philo argued because they thought Lloyd was targeting them. Riho was surprised to see Alan standing guard. The two blonde girls mocked that if he was afraid, he should just say so, but Alan hurriedly defended that he wasn't trembling, though no one believed him. While Marie was taking a walk, Alka came and forced her to lead the way to the Great Serpent. As the group went deeper, Philo suddenly asked Riho if she liked Lloyd. Selen also forced Riho to tell the truth because she had dated and been intimate with Lloyd, even making Riho kneel in the corner and question her. Riho surrendered to the two girls and reminded them that the mission was still there. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out, making Lloyd think it was the Great Serpent and rush over. But it was actually due to Marie and Alka, who had just fallen down. The woman continuously broke walls to open a quicker path to the monster. When Marie went scouting, she discovered Makona lying in a giant tree. Hearing the noise, she immediately woke up, her face dark, saying she was waiting for the one who had stolen her love. Knowing it was Lloyd, Marie immediately imagined various awkward scenarios but still tried to ask who Makona loved. But she wouldn't reveal it, then suddenly attacked Marie to lure Lloyd out. Makona also exhibited strange behavior, making Marie think she was being parasitized by Trent, causing mental disorder. Hearing the cry for help, Lloyd quickly appeared. As soon as she saw him, Makona transformed into a monster form and declared she would fight. She even threatened that if Lloyd wasn't quick, she would continue to tease Marie. A series of tree roots were released, but were all destroyed by Lloyd. Makona then lunged straight at him, pressing him against the wall, thinking she would defeat him. But Lloyd still escaped and calmly said that what she did was nothing compared to the people of Kunran village. Those words made Makona angry, thinking he was insulting her because that village only existed in legends. Fierce sounds rang out everywhere, causing Riho to lead the group to run over. Marie advised them to stay away, but Makona changed direction to attack, forcing Lloyd to block the blow. She blamed her teammates for making Lloyd injured, but he affirmed that it was thanks to them that he could do everything. Despite the difficult-to-heal wound, he didn't give up, proudly calling himself a true soldier. Makona flew into a rage and charged in. The fierce battle caused rocks and earth to crack, making everyone fall down. Makona continuously attacked, using all her strength to push Lloyd into a corner, but Lloyd grabbed one of her tentacles and spun it like a propeller. At the end of the battle, everyone congratulated Lloyd. Even the Great Serpent appeared to praise him, saying he was excellent. When Lloyd didn't remember him, he said it was understandable because at that time Lloyd was as tiny as a peppercorn, then introduced himself as Viratora, the guardian beast of Kunran village, with the mission of protecting the seal and maintaining power for Alka. Lloyd wondered why he was here, and Viratora suddenly became angry. The reason was that Alka had used his back skin to make a strap, which made him angry and leave. Marie was curious about who had parasitized Makona with Trent, and Sue appeared. As soon as he saw him, Lloyd immediately sensed danger. When Sue was challenging Lloyd, Alka emerged from underground demanding to settle accounts, not remembering clearly what had caused the Great Serpent to struggle. Taking advantage of their carelessness, Sue approached the Great Serpent and made him disappear, weakening the barrier. Theoretically, when Viratora disappeared, Alka would be as weak as a child. Yet she still delivered a powerful blow that astonished both Sue and herself. Actually, Viratora had entered Selen's belt and escaped death. The cause originated from Alka once skinning him to make a belt strap and then selling it, causing conflict between the two sides. Sue declared he would make Kunran village release last dungeon and then disappeared with the barrier. Meanwhile, Alan heard the noise and ran to support. Seeing the shadow of a monster, he thought it was the Great Serpent and swung his blade to attack, unexpectedly causing the cellar to collapse, making soldiers mistakenly believe he possessed earth-shattering power. Alka continuously scolded Sue for setting a trap, but it was actually because she herself had destroyed the cellar, then told the group to jump into the crystal ball to escape. Upon returning, Alan was rewarded by the king for destroying Dandayan and handling the Great Serpent. He refused, but the king was even more moved and praised his integrity, then awarded him the title of Dragon Slayer. Alan became a person who unexpectedly benefited, not needing to do anything but still getting rewards. That evening, Lloyd still thought about Sue because the name was similar to the main character in the book he often read. And while everyone was at the party, Alka appeared again, taking Selen to Kunran village for a new trip. The king announced that the kingdom of Azami and the Ziyu Empire would organize a match hosted by the royal family. This was seen as an opportunity for both countries to improve relations. Therefore, the king decided to send Azami's strongest warrior to participate, though the identity of that person was still a mystery. Alka led everyone through the forest to a small village in a bulky car. Of course, she could have used magic to fly there in the blink of an eye, but because someone was waiting ahead, they had to choose this mode of transportation. The kids were impatient to reach the small village to hunt for treasure. These children only thought about registering for marriage and competing with strong opponents. However, Marie quickly extinguished that intention because their main goal was to heal Viratora. On the way, Marie wondered if Chrome and Colleen's coming along was okay, especially when something major was happening in the palace. The truth was that the king had his eye on Alan, so Mina was tasked with bringing him back to participate in the match. Alka continued to lead the group to a cave where Dr. Huge resided, who was known as the king of the dwarf tribe. Although no one believed he was really a king, in reality, only Huge had the ability to shoulder such a responsibility. Both Huge and Alka had the bodies of students but the souls of old women, as they had lived for over a century. Right after that, Huge grabbed Viri and questioned why he had left home. Viri blamed everything on Alka, causing Huge to turn and scold Alka thoroughly. In response, Alka reminded them that Viri had once come up with the idea of turning jewels into a belt to give to Lloyd. It was all Viri's idea. Hit right in the black heart, Huge made an excuse to push everyone to the village. When they arrived, everyone was surprised because the village was much more peaceful than imagined. However, as soon as they entered, they felt a heavy atmosphere enveloping the place. The locals had strange ways of living. They didn't need to climb stairs, but could just jump up to the next floor like superheroes. Even from miles away, they could throw a letter straight to its destination. Lloyd explained that in this remote countryside, they had to live like that. After that, he turned to greet his grandmother, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. At that moment, a neighbor came to ask the grandmother to infuse more magic power into a gun to shoot him to the mountain ahead. However, due to a lack of magic power, he flew off course, making everyone worried about whether he was safe or not. Lloyd just laughed, saying that villagers often did this when they had urgent business, and if they accidentally veered off course, it would take until the next day to arrive. This village, besides its strange name, also made the group feel somewhat uneasy. At that moment, Lloyd's grandfather appeared, carrying a giant fish on his shoulder. Seeing this, Philo ran to greet him and challenged him to a duel with the one known as the demon god. Looking at her stance, he immediately recognized it as his own martial arts style. Lloyd explained that Philo had figured it out on her own, and also revealed that his grandfather's divine fist technique was actually used by the whole village as a morning exercise routine. Hearing this, Philo was thunderstruck, as what she considered martial arts was just a daily health exercise. The grandfather had intended to duel with Philo, but Riho quickly asked permission to help him carry the fish home. Unexpectedly, as soon as she carried it there, Riho turned to stone. Meanwhile, Colleen asked Alka about Murthohan's whereabouts, then immediately went to find where he was staying. Meeting again for the first time after many days apart, Colleen was greeted by Murthohan with an earth-shattering shock. Seeing Colleen blush with embarrassment, he even thought she wanted to go to the bathroom. That tactless remark made Colleen angry, and she immediately threw a punch. Nevertheless, she still couldn't understand why she had feelings for such a clueless person. When Chrome asked when Murthohan would return to Azami, he just shook his head. Because of his guilt over past mistakes, Murthohan wanted to stay here and continue the agricultural management work he loved. In another development, upon meeting Lloyd's family, Selin immediately rushed to greet them and pulled out a marriage registration form, trying to get them to sign. Before the plan could be executed, a strange sound rang out. It turned out a flying divine lizard appeared, and Alka immediately threatened to roast it to charcoal. Riho thought it was a rare monster that could be sold for a lot of money, so she enthusiastically volunteered to fight. But when she realized it was actually a huge dragon, she was scared and ran away. The village children, seeing this, mischievously threw paper airplanes to ask for the dragon's horn. After a few attacks, the dragon fled miserably. Selin mocked Riho, but then froze when she realized the marriage registration form had been turned into a toy by the children. At mealtime, Riho teased Selin again, but this time she had to restrain herself because she was in front of her future husband's family. Lloyd's grandfather apologized to Philo because he could only teach a few basic moves due to limited time. Hearing basic, yet still difficult, Philo just wanted to cry. Alka suddenly announced that today was a celebration party for the wedding between her and Lloyd. making everyone immediately frown. The grandfather quickly clarified that since Lloyd had become a soldier and brought friends to visit the village, everyone had gathered for a party. During the meal, everyone praised how delicious it was. Murthohan proudly boasted that the main ingredient was from what he had caught that morning. When Riho and Selen learned that the sauce was made from giant squid ink, they wanted to vomit on the spot. The highlight was the human face salad that made the whole table shudder, but everyone still enjoyed it deliciously. After the feast, Riho even took the initiative to stand up and clean, making Selen suspicious that she was plotting something. Before the elders left, they asked Lloyd which of the girls was his girlfriend. Lloyd blushed and explained that they were all just classmates. Nevertheless, Riho caught the eye of a brown-haired woman because of her domesticity and care for others. The grandfather, on the other hand, saw Philo as truly worthy because of her extraordinary martial arts skills. While Selen and Riho were upset, Philo held her head high in triumph. Alka couldn't stand it and shouted for everyone to disperse and go home. Resentful, Selen sought out Viratora for help with a plan. Viratora suggested she could utilize the talking belt or transform into a magic girl to get closer to children. Overhearing this by chance, the kind-hearted Huge drew a new form for Viratora, but was criticized by him. Afterward, Huge confided in Alka about Soma wanting to release the Demon Lord, but as it was still just speculation, Alka didn't dare to act. What worried him most was that the guy was about to remember his past, and no one knew what he would do once his memory returned. Late at night, Selen and Philo kept mocking Riho for receiving a new dress. Upon learning the dress was high-end, Riho's eyes lit up, and she quickly took it off and carefully stored it to sell at a high price later. Just then, Lloyd brought tea and snacks and accidentally witnessed the scene. Philo was quick-witted, kicking Lloyd flying toward the mountain, then tying Riho up so she wouldn't have a chance to meddle. In another corner, Methohan was sincerely apologizing to Marie for the mistakes he had made. Suddenly, Marie found this scene familiar and told him to stand up and explain everything. Murthohan confessed that on that day, a strange merchant appeared and gave him an egg. For some reason, he presented that egg to the king. After inhaling something from the egg, the king became like he was controlled by an invisible force. That man was about 60 years old and kept asking him who he thought he was. Hearing this, Marie was suddenly shocked because she had heard that phrase somewhere before. Early in the morning, Viri urged Alka to restore his body. Because if Viri disappeared, Alka would not only lose all her power, but even the seal of Last Dungeon would vanish with him. Alka maintained an indifferent attitude, infuriating Viri, but he couldn't do anything more. Soon, the group arrived at Last Dungeon, also known as the Ultimate Prison. Riho was excited, thinking there would be countless treasures inside. But her joy faded when she learned that this place only housed demon lords. The duty of suppressing demon lords who escaped from this place originally belonged to the villagers. Hearing this, Lloyd felt confused because he had never defeated any monster, let alone a demon lord, which made the two people accompanying him start to feel something was wrong. Viri was not only the guardian beast of the village, but also of Alka. Because Alka could transfer all injuries to Viri, she possessed immortal power from him. When Riho persistently asked what exactly Last Dungeon was, the lengthy answer made no one understand. In short, it was a gigantic source of magic power, a world-class ancient text form. Alka was scolded for daring to use Viri's skin as material. She defended herself, saying Huge had instigated her to make an apron from that skin because it was both oil and water resistant. Huge temporarily let it go, focusing on emphasizing that Alka currently could not control her power. If this instability was not sealed soon, all demon lords would flood into the world. Huge also noted the holy sword that everyone had just drawn, advising them to safeguard it carefully. After speaking, she inadvertently flashed a cunning smile, making Riho feel very suspicious. Huge then took the belt from Selen, making the little girl cry her eyes out. Then she began the ritual to resurrect Viri, first tenderizing pork belly, wrapping it with the belt, then putting it in a frying pan. After letting the meat rest, she prepared the sauce. Huge appeared serious, dropping the meat into a ball and throwing it into a pot of sauce, simmering for 3 hours. When the time was right, Huge took it out and suddenly flicked Alka's forehead, causing her sharp pain. It turned out this ritual had severed Alka's connection to Last Dungeon, turning her into an ordinary girl no different from a 9-year-old child. Hearing this, the group took turns venting all the grievances they had suffered from Alka's bullying in the past. Marie had intended to release all her suffering, but when faced with pressure from her master, she still trembled. Huge urged the group to go down the mountain to attend the match organized by the royal family. Lloyd was eager to watch Alan compete, while Chrome had to return first to prepare the stadium. While waiting for Viri to resurrect, Huge was idle and also planned to visit. But before leaving, she said she had something private to tell Alka. When they entered the forest, Huge suddenly activated a trap, causing Alka to fall into a deep pit. It turned out that the so-called resurrection of Viri was actually sealing Alka's power to release Last Dungeon and let the demon lords out. Huge declared he would recreate the world, with absolute faith in his plan. As Alka began to understand the plot, Huge had already closed the pit lid, locking her below. Meanwhile, Selin and Philo were still reluctant to leave because they were dreaming about becoming Lloyd's brides. Huge appeared, lying that Alka was busy collecting weapons to guard against Marie, making the group feel reassured to leave. Especially when Marie was mentioned, Selin panicked to the point of running away. Huge continued to deceive Lloyd into finding Alka. While calmly following everyone out, Colleen suddenly remembered she hadn't said goodbye to her crush when he unexpectedly appeared. Thinking other villagers would follow, to their surprise, it was only Murthohan. He brought some vegetables wanting to gift Marie, but since the gate had closed, he couldn't return. Huge took the opportunity to say that without Alka accompanying them, it would be more comfortable, and he deliberately used Lloyd to trick her into staying behind. Selin and Philo, hearing this, became even more upset, but Huge reassured them that they would only be apart for one day. Colleen happily pulled her crush back to Azami to rest, pushing all other matters to Chrome. The group returned exactly as Huge had calculated. Seeing Riho planning to sell the gloves, she offered to buy them at a bargain price, even proposing to repair her prosthetic arm for free. But Riho refused, although surprised that she could tell her condition just by glancing. After selling the treasures, Riho received a box of gold. Mina accidentally met Riho, and the two invited each other for a walk and a chat. While gossiping, Mina unintentionally ate all the skewers originally bought for a patient, so she had to buy them again. Afterward, they visited someone who was preparing to publish a book. Her wound had healed, but her character couldn't be saved. When Riho asked who had instigated Roll to take the holy sword, she said she didn't know the face, only remembered that he always asked others who they thought he was, and behind him was a child making sounds as if sucking candy. Riho immediately thought of Huge and felt an ominous sign. When Riho arrived at the arena, she was assigned the task of keeping watch around because the kings of both countries were about to appear. Because Colleen was busy, Mina was pulled along by Chrome to protect the king. Riho reminded the group to take the opportunity to enjoy themselves, while Selin took the chance to send thousands of love messages to Lloyd. On the other side, Alan was trying to escape because he was too pressured before the match, and had been labeled a hero, making everyone pay attention to him. While Alan was in turmoil, the neighboring king appeared. When the king of Azami arrived, Riho immediately presented the current danger and asked him to cancel the match. The king turned to ask Chrome if their words were trustworthy. Chrome answered briefly that they were close friends of the princess. Hearing this, the king immediately pulled Riho inside, eating cake while discussing recent events related to Marie. While Alka was desperately thinking that no one would find her, Lloyd suddenly appeared like a deity. He said he had been searching mountains and forests all day for Alka. Recalling that as a child, he often fell into holes. Lloyd thought of this place. This was also where he had determined to become strong so that no one would have to worry about him anymore. Now, Lloyd affirmed that he would stand up to protect everyone, though he still needed to make much more effort. Alka was touched, thanking Lloyd for helping her find her faith again, and from now on, she would stand by his side to save the world. That night, the priest asked Huge about the progress of the plan. She replied that she had closed the gate to the village, so she believed everything would go smoothly. Huge was in charge of strategy, while Soma would handle the combat. He was confident that Makona, despite her unstable mental state after being defeated by Lloyd, would still obey orders. Everything was carefully prepared for tomorrow's battle. Meanwhile, Lloyd was informed by his uncle that the gate to Azami had been destroyed by Huge. Fortunately, Alka still had a way to return, as long as they went back to the village first. After thorough preparations in the village, Alka didn't forget to instruct Lloyd to follow her words when arriving in Azami. With the help of the elders, Lloyd found a way to return using a strange vehicle from Kunran village. The next day, the friendly match between the two kingdoms proceeded as planned. During the battle, Alan suddenly realized his opponent was none other than Makona. Backed by the power of Trint, She easily overwhelmed Alan and pushed him to the edge, causing him to be injured. The king immediately questioned Sue, but he calmly proposed that they ally together to conquer this world. The Ziyu Empire currently possessed techniques to turn people into powerful weapons that obediently submitted. With the additional power of Azami, manipulating the world would be as easy as turning one's hand. Colleen intended to intervene, but Soma unexpectedly played a trick that rendered both of them immobile. The king, who had once been possessed by the demon lord, causing suffering to both the citizens and his daughter, firmly rejected Sue's proposal. Being refused, Huge had no choice but to take action. But just then, everyone had arrived in time to surround her. Riho clearly understood Huge's plot was to seize the Holy Sword and release Last Dungeon. That's why she had actively kept Lloyd and Alka in the village to make her plan go smoothly. Huge arrogantly believed that ordinary people couldn't change anything. However, Selen, despite not possessing overwhelming power like Lloyd, always strived to become a useful teammate. Everyone unanimously declared they wouldn't be easily subdued, annoying Huge. She immediately summoned Abaddon locusts to surround the stands, using the citizens as hostages to threaten the king. But she didn't expect that all the citizens were soldiers and adventurers in disguise. Immediately, they all stood up to fight, impressing even Soma with this thorough preparation. Meanwhile, Murthohan had heard that Soma had left the village and advised his friend to turn back. He even wanted to show Soma the excellence of farming through a wild transformation. Carrying a sickle and the Book of Destiny reversal, Murthohan proudly faced the challenge. He affirmed that the countryside wasn't boring at all. But what Soma despised was this world itself. He didn't want Lloyd to feel the same way, so he tried to make him believe the outside world was more interesting, thereby turning Lloyd into a hero, and then pushing the world to the brink of destruction. Although he assessed Murthohan as having some capability, Soma still looked down on him and easily overpowered him. On the other side, Marie's group struggled against the monsters. Makona suddenly approached and teased Marie, only to be given a kick that stuck her to the wall. Meanwhile, Chrome and Colleen had been successively defeated, forcing Sue to take the king to where the Holy Sword was kept. Unexpectedly, Alan appeared and cut off Sue's arm, but it immediately reattached itself. From ancient times, when humanity was immersed in chaos, they longed for a savior. Alka had used rune text to create Sue. He was supposed to disappear when the world was saved, but for some reason, he still existed, was called a hero by people, and then gradually forgotten. The desire for liberation made him find ways to eliminate Alka and turn someone else into a hero, none other than Lloyd. At that moment, Lloyd appeared, asking about Alan's match and affirming that he had heard everything from Alka. He questioned Huge that she couldn't resurrect the Demon Lord, only pretended to do so. Huge explained she didn't want to revive the Demon Lord to cause chaos, but Lloyd didn't believe her, thinking she was making it up. Being pressured, Huge brought out evidence, an egg containing Viri. Remembering Alka's instructions, Lloyd demanded she hand it over. Just as Huge was bringing it out, Lloyd threw a rock at her, but she had prepared a trump card, a giant golem that absorbed Makona to increase its power. Marie immediately asked Lloyd to save Makona, and he risked himself in a direct confrontation. With his strength, Lloyd easily cut off one of the golem's arms, but it regenerated almost instantly. He was busy controlling the golem and didn't know Selen was approaching from behind. Although Lloyd repeatedly defeated the monster, it continuously regenerated, then launched an extremely fast light attack. Lloyd dodged, but because Makona was captured, he couldn't deliver a decisive blow. In a moment of hesitation, Lloyd was knocked away, terrifying everyone. People guessed that Makona was the regenerative core of the golem. If she were separated from it, its power would weaken. But no one was strong enough to approach, and Makona had lost control of her consciousness. Lloyd was driven to exhaustion, but at that moment, Murthohan unexpectedly appeared, reviving his will with the love of growing vegetables and raising fish. With that power, he knocked back the giant golem. Simultaneously, Riho and Marie called out in unison for Makona to wake up. Witnessing Murthohan's unceasing efforts, Lloyd remembered his old dream of becoming strong enough to protect everyone. Riho also tried to awaken Makona with a promise to give her a special treasure. Sure enough, Makona regained consciousness, escaped from the golem, and rushed to grab the item, making the entire audience laugh and cry. Taking advantage of Huge's anger at the collapse of her plan, Selen swiftly snatched the egg from his hand, continuously calling Viri's name. At first, Viri was silent, but under her urging, he finally had to come out, astonishing Huge. Selin was proud that she had perfectly tamed Viri. At that moment, Lloyd recovered and became stronger than ever. With wind magic, he blew the golem away into a pile of rubble. Huge panicked and sent a distress signal, but her teammates were just filming Lloyd. Sue was extremely satisfied that Lloyd had officially become the successor to the hero position. He recalled that the initial plan was only to turn Lloyd into a hero, and now that had become a reality. Right after that, Alka appeared from the sky, mocking Huge to surrender. But Huge was still obsessed, forcing Alka to use all her strength. At that moment, Soma timely rescued Huge from Alka's hands. Sue said he needed time to edit Lloyd's entire battle, while reminding him not to forget his crimes. Thanks to both luck and talent, Alan once again was honored as a hero in the king's eyes. Murthohan was also reinstated after his recent contributions, although he still maintained habits that irritated Colleen. Makona was busy enjoying the strange spoils of war, while Lloyd returned to his daily life, reluctantly surrounded by a harem. Alka always wanted to be close to Lloyd, but Selin didn't give her the opportunity. Just when it seemed an internal conflict would break out, Marie and Riho intervened in time. Finally, Alan and Philo also joined, and everyone gathered at Marie's house for a party. After a series of intense battles, they enjoyed the feast together in complete joy.